Hey guys, I want to record another video for Scotland. Again, get you thinking about some stuff before we get over there. I don't know how many more I'll do of these. I definitely wanted to do a couple more, but this was the big one. Um, and I decided to just talk about the three big topics all at once instead of making a separate video for each one of these. So this would be, I think I called it money, meds, and mobiles. Um, because these are the three things you really do need to be thinking about before you go over. So very quick, I mean, it's all simple stuff, but number one, probably most important, if you have any medicine that you're taking on a regular basis, whether it's, whatever it might be, whether it's, antidepressants or asthma medicine or anti-reflux or whatever else you may be taking, make sure that you have enough for the trip. Now, I don't think we have anybody doing both programs. So I think most of you will only be over there for 2 weeks. Although some of you might be staying longer. It seems like one or two people are actually doing a longer trip. So make sure you have at least a little bit more than for the 2 weeks. Now keep in mind, some over-the-counter meds are available over there. There are several different drugstore chains. The main one is called Boots, B-O-O-T-S. There's several in Edinburgh. In fact, I have acid reflux, but I just take over the counter, so I always buy it at Boots. But if you do take any kind of prescription meds, make sure that you have your name on it so that it's actually yours. Don't some people are taking their parents' meds, or they borrow some pain pills because they got a bad back. Or what a lot of people do is they take the bottle like on a road trip, and they put all the different meds that they need in one bottle. You can't do that because at the airport, they're going to look at your meds, and you have to carry them on the plane with you. I mean, it's part of your carry-on, and they're going to look to see if your name's on them, and they're going to see if they're the same, because people might be throwing meth in there or something and trying to so make sure that if it's prescription medicine, that it's got your name on it, and then you need to make sure you have enough of that to last you through the trip. And so any medicines you take with you, they usually tell you to put it in a clear Ziploc bag, and carry on the carry-on so they can look at it and all that. Again, it's a small thing, but sometimes it's something people do forget about. So for some of you, it might be, actually, for some stuff I take, I think I gotta go see the doctor before I leave. I think I won't have enough. I'm there for 6 weeks, I think. I think I got enough for a couple of weeks here. For instance, I have asthma, so I always have to make sure I have this with me. And then I have enough of it, which luckily I do on that one. So again, just be thinking about what you need on a daily basis, or what you might need in an emergency. If a lot of you are young, you may not need anything. The other thing, this is kind of a weird thing to bring up, but some students and people take maybe alternative medicine, stuff that they buy at like a natural food store or something. If you do that, whether whatever kind of garlic pills or saw palmetto or whatever it is, they do have natural food places over there, but they do have different rules. So if there is something that you take, I know a lot of people for mental health, instead of taking antidepressants, they take St. John's wort or something. Make sure that if you are doing something like that, make sure you just look up, make sure that's, sometimes certain alternative medicines are legal in the US and not legal in another country, and you may not even think twice about it. So anyway, so that's number one, and that's an easy one. Just get on top of it. Don't wait till a couple days before when it's too late. And by the way, when you do orientation, they will have a health form. Maybe you've had to do it before then. We usually do it at orientation. You fill out a health form, and where you list any medicines that you can't take or any medicines that you're on. It's private, but we do use that in case which we've never had to use it, thank goodness, but in case of an emergency, we do need to have that information on hand. Anyway, topic two, what they call mobiles. We just call cell phones, or nowadays smartphones. I used to tell people that, when we first started this a while back, don't take your phone if you don't want to. And part of the reason I always said that, because I did notice sometimes students, kind of clung to their phones so much, especially when smartphones became more and more prevalent in the last decade. I have had some students that just kind of spend the whole time on their phone. One in particular that I can remember that she had just gotten, she was one of my students from my college. She had just gotten, I think, a new boyfriend, and they ended up getting married eventually. They're still married. But at that time, they had just got married, and she just spent all her time on her phone, and she wasn't enjoying the trip. And it really was to the point that by halfway through the trip, it was obvious she was not having a good time. She had not connected with people. Because and every photo I have of her from that year, so sometimes I do think you can be a little too connected. All of us, not just young people, all of us can be, and sometimes it can make you a little more homesick if you're just so involved with everything back home and talking to your friends all the time. And sometimes it is nice to put it away a little bit and be in the moment, if you will, because when you get home, you'll regret that you weren't, because the trip might seem like it goes on forever when you're there, but once you get back, it is literally a blip, and you're going to wish you had spent more time enjoying the moment. But I know that in 2022, I can't tell people don't bring your phone, because I mean, I'm bringing my phone. So it is kind of just a reality that we all have our phones, and I'm sure your family are like, no, you're taking your phone. So, but maybe kind of make a point of not always being on it. You guys will pick on me because I'll be the one on it. The other reason I used to be a little more, wary about students always bringing their phones is because it used to be a bigger pain to have a phone internationally. Most of the carriers weren't good with international travel, or they charged an arm and a leg for everything you did. There used to be companies that would rent you out a phone. I think there still are. Don't do that. There's no need to do that. They're really expensive. But nowadays, it is getting easier and easier to use your phone in another country. And of course, as a lot of you already know, you don't even have to have cellular service. If you just have your Wi-Fi turned on, but your cellular turned off, you can use your phone just simply as a device. And if you're at a place like the hostel, which does have Wi-Fi, a free Wi-Fi, which used to not be a thing in Britain. I mean, we're so used to free Wi-Fi everywhere, but a lot of other places around the world, it's not free. And even up to about 5 years ago, you used to have to pay by the hour. It was awful. You had to do everything in an hour. You had to go back downstairs and pay another couple of pounds to get another hour of Wi-Fi. That's not the case anymore. And in fact, it's actually Wi-Fi is pretty available throughout Edinburgh at different restaurants, the museums, even the city buses have free Wi-Fi. The trains usually have it. So a lot of students never even deal with their cellular. They only deal with texting and Facebook messaging and FaceTiming back home and Zooming, which I'm using to record this video. They use Zoom. So there are lots of ways to contact back home without necessarily using your cellular data. But if you're going to plan to use your cellular data, for maybe for location services, because when you're out, you can't always have Wi-Fi, so you might need it for locations, or you just want to be able to call people or text people. That's fine. I mean, just make sure that you contact your phone carrier. It's not anything I can do. You just, I would highly recommend giving a phone call to, I use AT&T. Some of you might use, whatever, all the other Sprint, all those. Call them up and say, hey, I'm going to be in Edinburgh, Scotland during this time period, or just say Scotland. I'm going to be in Scotland during this time period. I'd love to have international use. What are my options? The other thing, and I don't necessarily recommend this, but it is something that the faculty do. I do usually, in fact, I meant to bring it down after it's up on my shelf. I usually buy, and I'll probably just use this one this year because I bought it last time, a small burner phone. UK, you can go to some of the phone shops, get a phone for 10, 20 pounds sometimes. And then you just, and all you can do is text and call on it. It's not a smartphone, but you can still, you can throw some credit on there. That's much more common over there than it is here. But you buy a phone, add some credit to it. You can text, you can call each other, or even though calling home is expensive, they can call you and you won't have to pay for it. So if you give that number to, again, I think most of you probably could just use your phone if you call your carrier. I mean, it will cost you a little bit, but maybe, but that is the other option. It may not be something you can do on the first day. It might be the second or third day before you can actually get to a phone place. But anyway, again, just like with the meds, it's just something you need to think about and take care of in the month of April. Make that your deadline. Sometime in the month of April, if you're going to take your phone, try to get on top of that now, especially for the session one folks, because obviously 21st of May we're taking off. Last one, and this is the one this is the big question: money. What do I do about money? How much money do I take? And the problem is, my answer is it depends. Because everybody is different. There is really no set amount. I will give you a minimum, and it'll be like a really, really low minimum. But as far as how much you want to take, that's up to you. You really think to yourself, what is it you want to do while you're over there? Now, anything we do as part of the program, you've already paid for, right? Or you're paying for now, right? So any field trips that we're doing, that comes out of the program fees. Obviously the airline, unless you're buying your own ticket, the airline's out of the program fees. You know, the transportation to and from places is part of the program fees. Breakfast it's a very basic breakfast, but we do have breakfast every day. And I do recommend eating it just because you'll need the energy. But lunch and dinners, except for the opening meal, lunch and dinner will be on your own. And any souvenirs you want to buy, anything you want to do on the weekend, anywhere you might want to go. Some of the evenings will be free. You might want to go out. Like I'm a big book guy. I buy lots of books. So that's actually, I budget for that. But some people might want to buy a lot of souvenirs. They might want to buy stuff for family or friends. Some really might want to eat out a lot, you know. So really start, you know, if you're going to London on the weekend, you got to think about, okay, I need a train ticket. I need hotel for that. I need food for that. So again, be thinking about what you want to do. Some people just do the field trips and they're happy. They don't need to spend a lot of extra money. Others really, you know, this is their big trip and they really want to spend a lot. So, so there is no set amount. Again, as I say, it's up to you how much you're planning to do on your own outside of the program. Because you can eat very cheap if you want to. There's cheap places. I go to a grocery store. I tend not to go out to eat a lot because I go a lot. You know, I go every year almost. So I can't afford to eat out every time I go over there. So I tend to just eat cheap at the grocery store, but not everybody wants to do that. The biggest thing to do, though, is try to have some variety. You know, diversify your money. So ideally, you would want to bring cash, but also a credit card, and maybe also a bank card or an ATM card. Now, for some people, the ATM card and the credit card might be literally the same thing, but you do want some cash, you know, for just in case your credit card doesn't work or your ATM card doesn't work for some reason. That does happen occasionally. So you do need to be thinking about, you know, if you're going to use a credit card or use somebody else's credit card, make sure that you call your bank and let them know that you're going to be out of country during these dates and let them know where you're going to be. I mean, you can just say Britain, you can say the UK, but let them know. Because what happens is you leave the country, you use your credit card. It might work the first time, but the second time you use it, it's locked up because your bank goes, hey, whoa, you live in Georgia and I got somebody in London trying to use this credit card. So again, make sure your bank is aware that you're going to be out of town. Same with the ATM card, exactly the same thing. Make sure they're aware of that. And even when you do that, because this happens to me a lot, sometimes it'll still get locked up, even after you tell them. And by the way, you need to call your bank, but also call the credit card company directly. And on almost every credit card on the back, it gives you a 1-800 number you can call. So you also need somebody at home, you know, whether it's a parent or a spouse or significant other, but somebody that you trust with your info, so that in case your bank card or your credit card have a problem, you can message them and maybe they can call on your behalf, you know, to the bank and clarify. Because sometimes it is just the security will kick in. And that's why I say you always want some cash, especially for the first couple of days, in case there is an issue with your credit card. You know, sometimes it does take a day or so for everything to, you know, we get it on a Sunday and it might not be till Monday or Tuesday that everything sort of settles down. Again, I even have that problem over, you know, more than once over the years. So make sure you contact your bank about your credit card. The other thing is to be thinking about your own personal budget. And for some students, especially, you know, 18, 19 years old, you may not have ever really had to budget before. Now, if you're living on your own, especially if you're working, you probably have to do this. You have to budget for your lights and your food and your gas. But again, I didn't have to really do my own budget till I was about 20 when I finally moved out in my own place. And then I had to really think about how much do I spend every month and how much comes in and how much goes out. So if I've noticed over the years, sometimes this is the very first time students have had to really think about their budget. So one thing you need to be aware of is that, of course, the British pound is worth a little bit more than the American dollar. It's not a lot right now, but it is about 30%, literally about 30% more. In fact, in a moment, I'm going to switch screens and do some exchange figures so you can actually see it in real time, or at least real time as I'm doing it. But, you know, the way to think about it is think about how much money you have. Like once you get to that point of I have this much cash, I have this amount of money on my ATM card, and I'm going to spend up to this amount on my credit card, right? Whatever that number is, whatever that number may be, first thing you should do is convert it to pounds. I mean, I don't mean physically, but in your mind, convert it to pounds. What's great about credit cards and ATM cards is that when you're over there and you check your balance in your ATM, it'll give it to you in pounds. You don't have to do the math. When you get a receipt, it'll be in pounds. But still, you do need to kind of keep a track of how much you're spending. So let me switch screens here. Okay, should work in about 2 seconds. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing Google now. So this is, I mean, there are apps you can put on your phone that do this. Oops. Should have it pulled up already. You know, there's like, oops, good Lord. There's currency apps. I don't know if you can see that or not. I can see a glare, so you may not be able to see it at all right now. But there's currency apps you can look at. In fact, it's showing about $1.31. That £1 costs $1.31. But you can do it on Google. You can just type in, like, if you want to go from dollars to pounds, USD to GBP, Great British Pound, you know, and it'll look like this. So again, so something that costs $1 only costs them 76 cents in pounds. But so what's interesting about that, let's say you only have $500, and that would be, by the way, the absolute bare minimum that I would have. It don't have to all be in cash, but that would be the absolute bare minimum. So type in 500, what that actually gives you in country is a little less than 400 pounds. So you think, well, that's not terrible. Actually, let me put in one more screen here. I can't see my phone. All right. So what was that? Let's just say 380. Keep it easy. So 380 divided by how many days we're over there. So we get there on a Sunday. You don't really need anything. Usually won't need much on that first day, although you might go grocery shopping that evening. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So about 12 days in country. 11 nights, 12 days. So 380 divided by 12, it's about 32 pounds a day. That should be your daily budget, if that's how much money you're bringing. If you're bringing $500, about 380 pounds, that's 32 pounds a day. Now, that's not horrible, but that's probably going to be your meals. That you know, lunch and dinner, depend, you know, think about 10 pounds each, maybe a little more for dinner, maybe a little less for lunch. That's already 2/3 of your, you know, cost. And if you go, you know, go to a movie or you buy anything, but if you think about that number, it will help you start thinking about your budget, not overspending. So anyway, I'll come back to that. So 750, let's say you have $750 available to you, credit card, ATM card, cash. So now you're talking about $572. So 72 divided by 12. Now you're looking at about $47, a little bit better. And again, a lot of people don't like to think about how much money they actually have. Whenever I do this with students, I can always tell they're like, it's almost like you don't want to really, like, there's nothing more depressing than looking at your wallet and going, oh, that's all I got, you know, or looking at your ATM balance, like, God, I thought I had more than that. But you need to be aware of that, because if you know what that number is, again, how much money you got total in US, convert it to pounds, then divide it by 12. That gives you your daily max. And what's good about that is if you're thinking about that number as you're doing stuff like, oh, I'm going to buy this. Oh, wait a minute. That's £5. I've already spent £20 today. Maybe I won't buy that. It's kind of like counting calories. Once you're aware of the calories, you know, you go for that cookie and you're like, oh, that's 300 calories. Maybe I won't eat that cookie, you know, which is why restaurants don't like to put their calories, because it makes you not buy it. So, but it's a good thing to do if you're trying to budget. And what happens is what you try to do is you try to beat your budget. I'm only going to spend £20 today. That way I'll have £60 I can spend tomorrow because I saved 20 today, right? So anyway, like I said, 500 is the bare minimum. Even that's a little, some of my colleagues are like, that's a little low, but again, it doesn't have to all be cash. It can be cash, it could be credit card and ATM, but you do really want a little bit of all of that. The only thing, and I shouldn't have to say this because most of you probably don't even know what this is, but your parents will. Used to be in the old days, you got traveler's checks, which was these little pieces of paper, and it was like cash without it actually being cash. And then you went to a place and you literally cashed the traveler's check and you get cash. Almost nobody uses these anymore, but every so often somebody will ask me about traveler's checks. Usually it's a grandparent that's going to give you traveler's checks because they're thinking it's still the 90s. If they do get you travel checks, cash them before you go, but I bet nobody will. But so Visa's used almost everywhere, MasterCards everywhere. I always said American Express can be a little iffy, but I know one of my colleagues uses American Express and they haven't had many problems yet. Again, when you call your credit card, just make sure, say, hey, is there any restrictions on where I can use this? Discover is really the one you don't want. If anybody has Discover, that's really not accepted almost anywhere. So, but Visa, MasterCard are pretty widely accepted, and American Express is it's a little less, but also pretty well accepted as well. But again, you notice, the depressing thing of when you type your money in and you're like, I got, you go to the exchange place, and you got your $600 and you're like, yay. And you get back and it's a lot less than you gave. And there's nothing more depressing than realizing that you don't have as much money as you thought you did. Again, the exchange rate now actually isn't as bad as it has been. We've actually had it 2 to 1. It's been that bad before. So again, it's about $1.31, $1.32 per pound. So again, everything's about 30% more than it is here. But also keep in mind, when you exchange your money, and there are places that you can do that. I always, the first day while you guys are in the castle, which I don't go in, I always check out the places and see who has the best rates. There's one place in particular I usually take students to, and it, they do a pretty good job, but it's not going to be this rate because they got to make money. I mean, that's how they make money, exchange places. So they, even if they say no commissions, they're going to charge you a little bit. So again, that's how they're going to make money. So if you have $600 cash and you go to one of those exchange places, you're not going to get $457. You might get $427. Again, you're gonna pay a little bit fees for that exchange rate. The best exchange rate is going to be at your bank. So if you can exchange your money before you go. Not all banks do it though. My bank doesn't do it, sadly, but a lot of banks will. So you, again, ask your bank, hey, you usually have to do it a couple of weeks in advance. It's not usually the day of, you have to set it up. They'll give you good exchange rate. They'll be very close to this. ATM, when you use your ATM over there, it'll give it to you in pounds. Again, you're going to get pretty good exchange rates through ATM. You are going to have to pay a bank fee, of course. But you will get pretty decent exchange rates through an ATM. I use all three. I have to have some program money to pay for taxis and stuff. So I do have to exchange over there. And I usually exchange some cash as well. But yeah, you always lose a little bit in the process. So like I said, it's a little bit depressing when you realize that the American dollar is not worth quite as much as you think. So again, even now, as you're thinking about how much money you might have, and maybe you're talking with your family, how much money you're going to bring, again, go to Google, start typing things in, start getting a real sense of how much money you're really going to have. And again, keep in mind, you may not even quite have that amount if you're exchanging your money. Try to do it at the airport if you can help it, but sometimes you might need to. You just have to do a little bit at the airport before we leave. The reason I say that because the airport is going to charge you quite a bit more than on the ground when we're there. But So again, like I said, as far as how much money to take, it's up to you. Don't take less than 500, but you know, I would say probably average student 800 to 1,000 is usually what they have access to. But again, diversify that money. And also, last thing, if you lose some of the money, you still got your ATM card or your credit card. You know what I mean? Like if something goes down, you might still have something else. Okay, I can keep talking about other stuff, but I think that's the big stuff. The biggest thing is pre-plan. Be thinking, and this goes for any travel you do, not just to Scotland. So again, be thinking about if you need medicine, what you need to do about that. If you're going to take a cell phone, what you need to do about that, and your money. So again, you got a little bit of work you need to do, and you still got plenty of time. Even session 1, we still got over a month. I should have this sent out to you later today. And today's Monday, the 4th of April. So, okay, enough. I talked too much. I'll see you guys later.